You are now watching Zaclasage, the best place to learn about competitive Pokemon TCG. Let's get it! Yo, what's poppin' peeps? Welcome back to the channel, Zaclasage here. We're going to be covering our first top decks video of the Brilliant Stars format. That's right, we're back, Brilliant Stars format. Brilliant Stars just got released last week. We had a couple tournaments, and I'm sure a lot of you are expecting Arceus VSTAR to be up there. Honestly, we'll find out as we kind of grow through this list, so let me know what's going on. Do you think Arceus is going to be up at the top, or is it going to be Mew, who absolutely rode the entire Fusion Strike format? I really loved when players and peeps and everyone just puts their guesses in the comments below, so put your top 5, your top 10, whatever you want to guess, put it in the comments below. We'll see if you were right. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of results that are going to shock a lot of people. If you're new to watching these videos, I go through the Limitless database, and I put all the tournaments available in a week that are in this Brilliant Stars standard format. So for this week, it's going to be Friday through Sunday because it's a short week when it comes to Pokemon, but there's a lot of information that we're going to gain out of those few short days. Lots of great tournament results to cover. I calculate everything by hand, and I plug it into a sheet. Sheet gives me the information. We put the best deck list out for all those. That's where we're getting the best decks. If you haven't already, give this video a like, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and all the lists are going to be available in the pinned comment. So check out that pinned comment for all the deck lists. You can copy and paste those right into PTCGO, PTCG Live, and there should be reference videos for most of those. If there's not reference videos for them, I'm working on it, okay? I'm working on it. This set released on Tuesday. Been doing double uploads. We got it. That being said, we're going to be jumping into our number 10 spot. Intrepid sorting all the way into number 10, and number 10 last week is Zacian Zamazenta. Now, this is a deck that I wasn't necessarily expecting to see any kind of success in our Brilliant Stars metagame, but I think players are still transitioning over. So the events that I did choose that we were kind of observing this week were from Friday on, just Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 short days of standard events. I think some players might not necessarily have had decks prepared, or they just might really like Zacian Zamazenta, or maybe they just thought that it would work in this metagame. I mean, in some ways, Ice Rider Calyrex seems to be doing pretty well. No leaks on what's going to be on this list, but you might just see one. The goal of this deck is to just use Intrepid Sword, accelerate energies to your Zacian V, then attack with Brave Blade. Pretty basic there. You can chase down your opponent with boss's orders. That's all good. You also have access to Zamazenta V to just block VMAX Pokemon. With V-Star Pokemon coming out kind of more in abundance and Arceus V-Star kind of being everywhere, I think that Zamazenta V is going to be way less effective. And I just think that Zacian V is, like, this is a deck to me that seems like it might be bottom of the top 20 going forward. But with the short week that we had, I think people might just be liking this deck right now. We'll have to see how it goes. I might make a reference video for this one, but it is what it is. I do want to let everyone know that in the pinned comment, all the copy and pasteable lists are available. If you are trying to pick up any of these cards, you can go to ptcgostore.com, plug in code ZLASAGE5 to get some online codes and help me out as a content creator. Coming in at number 10 again, and previously at number 13, is Suicune Ludicolo. Now, you might be wondering, how are both of these decks at number 10? Well, there is a tie at 50 CP, so both of these decks so far have had some decent finishes, but they all got 50 CP, and there's not enough events to differentiate between that 10 CP or not, so they're all at number 10 this week. Hopefully things will change up for next week. I think Suicune V gains Choice Belt in this upcoming set. I think Choice Belt's fine, and it might turn Blizzard Rondo from an almost OHKO to a definitive OHKO. Same thing with Ludicolo. Ludicolo getting a little bit closer without having to use double Ludicolo or having that extra quick shooting. I think this deck is really cool when it comes down to it, and the whole goal is Blizzard Rondo, fill up that bench, then use Ludicolo, do some extra damage, and you have Choice Belt. We added in a new Cynthia's Ambition to try to draw cards. Instead of just having Research and Marnie and, like, whatever, 2 Research and 1 Marnie, we have 1 Research, 1 Marnie, and 1 Ambition. You could search it out with Drizzle and make things good or not. It's up to you. I think this deck's okay. I think I need a little bit more testing with it to see where it falls in the metagame. But I think the lack of lightning types in this metagame as a whole is always going to be good for Suicune and Ludicolo. So, one of those things, keep your eyes out for this deck because it has seen a lot of success in the past, but I'm not necessarily sold on it going forward. I think there are much better decks right now in this metagame. Swooping into number 10, and not really on the list last week, is Eternatus VMAX. Now, this is a deck that is tied again, number 10, number 10, number 10. So this Suicune, Ludicolo, and Zacian are tied. I think this deck, out of the three of them, is absolutely the best, which is the reason why I'm putting it a little bit closer. So if there's something closer to 8, this would definitely be the one. Now, your goal is to kind of use the ability Eternal Zone and kind of build up a bigger bench so you can hit hard with Dread End, so you get the extra 3 bench spots, you're hitting a little bit extra harder. And the big thing that we gain from this deck is Choice Belt. So before we could only hit 270, and you might be like, okay, 270 is not that bad, but like 270 is 50 away from getting a knockout on a Pokemon with 320 HP. So Zigzagoon can only get you so far, and that's the reason why we didn't really play it in the deck. We just didn't really have access to hit those numbers. Now that we can hit 300, now we're only 2 Zigzagoon pings away from doing 320 to knock out most VMAX Pokemon. Or we're just like Choice Belt, knockout Arceus V-Star, or Zigzagoon Pig, knockout Arceus V-Star. The numbers work out really nice. I know a lot of people don't like the Leopard in this deck for some reason. I think it's a great way to get around Path to the Peak and just like draw extra cards and get yourself out of weird situations. If your opponent's not playing Collapse Stadium or Path to the Peak, I could totally see Leopard being amazing. I don't really know where those extra spots are going to, but I really like how this deck's been playing out. I think that there's a lot of potential when it comes to Eternatus, and it would be one of the picks that I'd always bring with me if I were going to an event like Salt Lake, just because of how powerful I feel this deck is. I used to main Etern as a deck, and I could totally see myself going right back in that habit. So as a player who's having 15 plus years of experience, I can tell you that Etern's worthwhile to pick up. It's going to do well. It's just not like no one's really playing it right now. But if you like Etern, go out and play it. This list is absolutely busted. Galloping all the way to number 7 and not tied at number 10 is Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX. So this deck's actually shooting up from last week in the Fusion Strike format where it was at number 9, and I really think it's just Choice Belt being added to this deck, allowing it to go max Lance, hitting for 280 damage, or Ride of the High King being able to knock out some 2 prize card Pokemon. My list is heavily built off of Cash Fender Sting's winning list with Cross Switcher. I really like the idea, and like I said, the only real change is adding Choice Belt, but sometimes it's what you need. Ultra Ball's also really cool in this deck because you're able to kind of pitch extra energies for Melanie and really search out the things that you want. I'm not sure if I like this version better or if I like the Arceus version better, but we'll go over that in a little bit. No leaks. If you are trying to pick up any of these cards in real life, I'm now sponsored by Atlas Collectibles. You could use my code ZLASAGE8 to save 8% off your Pokemon TCG singles. They have a large selection and it would really help support the stream. Also galloping, this time into number 6, and not on the list last week, is Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX with Ice Rider. I kind of got it a little bit short last one because I was going to explain it in this one. What I'm doing for decks that heavily feature Arceus or not are going to be 2 separate decks, because we've seen some with Duraludon with Arceus and some that are just straight up Duraludon. I think they're different enough decks where they kind of function, but the Pokemon function differently, but the Pokemon are the same. The goal of Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX is to choose between Ride of the High King or Max Lance. That's going to be the same no matter which deck you're choosing, and then you're going to be powering it up with Melanie or Raihan, accelerating those energies. You're good to go. Where this deck differs is that you have the option to kind of pivot into an Arceus V-Star as a main attacker. You can either use Arceus V or V-Star to power up your different Pokemon. And of course, Starbirth opens up levels of play. I really like the Leon Choice Belt combo. I like Ultra Ball in this deck. I like a lot of little things. I think this deck's pretty teched out in a lot of ways where it's very good. And maybe there's things that this deck could share with that Ice Rider deck. Maybe Luminion's good. Maybe it's actually not as good. It's still early format, so I'm figuring it out. But this is a list that I've been seeing a lot of success with in my testing, and I recommend that you give it a try. Arceus V-Star to me adds layers of depth to most decks that it's added into, and I think we're probably going to come into a conclusion where most decks that feature Arceus V-Star are going to be towards the top of the metagame, and the decks that are various versions of the same deck that do not might not see as much success. That's my general idea right now, but I do think Arceus V-Star is the key to success going forward, because Starbirth is such an amazing V-Star ability, being able to search out 2 cards whenever you want, early game, mid game, late game, whenever. I just think it's absolutely amazing. If you're trying to learn more about this deck or any other decks and just trying to grow as a player, I do offer coaching at metafy.gg/@ZachLassage. If you haven't considered it, consider doing it. It's one of those things where I can help you grow either as an online player, a player who's getting those top cuts at their locals, or even getting in a position to get a World's Invite or more. So hit me up, it'd be absolutely sick. Sneaking all the way to number 5 and dropping from number 3 last week is Gengar VMAX. Now, Gengar VMAX to me, absolutely amazing deck, and it's one of those decks that I'm proud to say that I put a lot of effort into. I know that I've recently showcased the version with Arceus VSTAR, and while I do like that version personally more than other versions, similar builds to this are more successful. So this is my take on what the most successful Gengar decks are looking like. They're not playing Arceus. Most of them are not playing Bibarel. I've heard all of it in the comments, peeps. I'm just letting y'all know. The goal of this deck is to use Fear and Panic. It's great now that there's V-Star Pokemon out, like Arceus V-Star, that also focus on having other V Pokemon and VMAX Pokemon out in play. Fear and Panic does a lot, and I see a lot of players misplaying right into it. Gmax Swallow Up can do a ton of damage, and with Choice Belt you could even do more now. So I think that this is just like an ideal build. You pat to the P, you can get through Duraludon, you can knock out whatever you want, as long as you avoid single prize card decks for the most part, and this deck can still kind of hold its own against them. Or if you just avoid any deck that's fighting type, you're pretty good. If you hit anything else, you're struggling a little bit. I do like the Bird Keepers in testing so far. It's something that I'd like to continuously test. But let me know what you think about Bird Keepers if you've been playing Gengar. I think it's a pretty cool tech, and it works well with the Gmax Swallow Up, especially with Switch and Hiding Darkness energy. I'm going to probably cover a build similar to this on the channel really soon, just because I like Gengar so much, and I want to make sure that I'm covering the correct versions of decks and tinkering those on a day by day. So even if you see something like I've covered Ice Rider Arceus, for example, already, I do plan on covering the straight up Ice Rider, just so that we have varying points of strategy and stuff on the channel. So if that's something you've been wondering about, I will be covering it really soon. Making it all the way to number 4 and not on the list before is Arceus VSTAR Toolbox. So this list is based off of Savage 400's list, and there's a lot of inclusions that I liked in their winning list, but I have changed it up a little bit. The goal of this deck is to get Arceus VSTAR powered up. You accelerate energies to your various different attackers, and in this one you have dark type attackers because Mew's pretty good. We'll see if it's on the list. Maybe, maybe not. It's a good time to get those guesses in, peeps, if you haven't already, in the comments below. You could use Trinity Nova, Trinity Charge, whatever. You have dark Pokemon like Galarian Moltres that you can self-accelerate to. You have Ditto to change things up. You could power up a Galarian Moltres from your hand, not from Arceus, from your hand. You have Hoopa that is part dark, part psychic type, which is great against Rapid Strike Urshifu. You have Yveltal that's also helpful if your opponent plays a bunch of special energies. You just go Cry of Destruction and just rip their energies apart. You have Zapdos V to hit Gengar, hit Arceus decks, hit whatever. Zamazenta V is good for Ice Riders. You can see there's 2 Ice Riders in the top 10. Pretty good. And you can just power it up with that fighting energy. You can always get it back from Training Court or search it out with Starbirth. This deck seems to work. There's a bunch of different tech cards. You can search things out directly. Luminion, search your deck for a Charon's Care against a single prize card, and rotate through Arceus. Like, there's a lot of cool things going on here. I think that a well-teched version of this deck can work incredibly well. So this is kind of like our new era of counterbox, and Arceus seems to just like hold it well, like all together well. So we'll have to see how it continues to play out, but it looks like a lot of people are liking this deck, and I think it's going to continuously see success. So if you haven't tried against this deck, it's likely worthwhile for you to try against it. Skyscrapering all the way to number 3, not on the list last week, obviously because we didn't have Brilliant Stars, is Duraludon VMAX with Arceus VSTAR. So this deck is the one that won the Full Grip Scan event, and it's exactly Riley Holbert's exact list. I think it's absolutely amazing. Credit to them, shout out to them. Super cool deck. You play 2 Duraludon and 3 Duraludon VMAX. We'll go over that in a second. And the reason why is so that you start with Arceus V. Turn 1, you could attach an energy, or maybe use Trinity to search your deck for some energies onto your various Pokemon that are V Pokemon to play. All of them are in this deck, so you can patch whoever you want. Evolve into the Arceus V-Star. Now you could go Starbirth, go with a Mustard, with a bunch of Ultra Balls, searching things out, and get out a Duraludon VMAX, summon it. So you have a better chance of starting with Arceus, you have a better chance of these solid starts, and basically the deck is going to function like Duraludon, except you now have Arceus as a solid attacker, and consistency card to search things out. I think it's just a better way to be playing this deck than current Duraludon. I don't know if there's necessarily any like reason to play straight up Duraludon anymore, but people are continuously seeing success with that deck as well. We'll see if it makes this list, and maybe if not, it might make the top 20. To me, this is absolutely one of the best decks in our format. The fact that it's number 3 seems like it's low, and it's just really well constructed for an early build. So by all means, check this one out. I literally just covered it on the channel. It's amazing to play. I really, really, really like this deck. Making its way all the way to number 2, and from number 4 last week, is Dark Toolbox. Now, this deck has been seeing a lot of success in both the Fusion Strike and Brilliant Stars format, but it does gain some new tech such as Manaphy, which really helps against Jolteon and Rapid Strike, the 2 worst matchups that this deck was facing in its Fusion Strike format. So Manaphy is brilliant here. You could get it back with Clara over and over again. Amazing. We also gained Cynthia's Ambition, so that when our Pokemon are knocked out, we have ways to draw extra cards. We've now split it up so that we have access to Bruno, we have access to Cynthia's Ambition, we have access to Marnie, we have access to Research, and that's what's great about having these Shady Dealings decks. The goal of this deck is to really sacrifice single prize card Pokemon while you're building up either damage with Galarian Weezing, Hoopa, Quick Shooting, so that you could either get the OHKO or the planned knockout, I should say, with Fiery Wrath on Galarian Moltres. You could drop that, accelerate 3 energies to the same turn, knock out something. You could also get that damage and go Sableye V, Raihan, attach, Crazy Claws knockout. Zapdos V is really here for anything that's weak to Dark. There's a lot of Arceus decks, and you can really, really take them down. I do want to give a quick shout out to Mo Ideas, who helped me work on a lot of the concept of this deck. I know they don't necessarily think Weezing's necessary. I'm trying a different route right now because most lists that are successful are seeing Weezing, but this is the list right now. Just covered a video that's going to be going up later today at the creation of this video. It'd be awesome if you could check that out and learn a little bit more about the game. This is a real difficult deck to play, so consider that if you are choosing to play it, and games can take a little bit long. Although I do think this deck is incredibly effective if you pilot it well. Psychic Leapin' all the way to number 1 for the past 3 months, and it's bridging over from the Fusion Strike format to the Brilliant Stars format, Mew VMAX, beating out the Dark Box deck by only 30 CP. So I thought Dark Box was going to take it. Mew snuck in there with a few small finishes, kind of beat Dark Box out in every other deck. So we could look at Mew VMAX for a lot of ways. How did it get to number 1? Well, it might be a similar case of Zacian, where players are playing their familiar deck. They know that they could just slap Ultra Balls into this deck, and a lot of the more successful decks early on have already seen success. Hence, Mew seeing number 1, Dark Box seeing number 2, Gengar seeing number 5, Ice Rider, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of familiar faces up here, and players aren't necessarily diving into Arceus. So, the strategy of this deck is to use Cross Fusion Strike, and then you're going to just copy whatever attacks you want, whether you're copying Technoblast, Melodious Echo, Psychic Leap, or even just using Max Miracle. Mew VMAX can copy whatever you have in play. Now, I do have to say, like, this deck is teched to beat Duraludon. There are Duraludon Arceus and Duraludon decks in the metagame, both seeing success. That's why I plays 3 basic Psychic. Otherwise, I would just cut a basic Psychic, maybe for another stadium. However, Path to the Peak is on the low side of being played. Oricorio is very helpful against single prize card decks, also very helpful against the Dark Box matchup in general, so it's one of those things that if you're able to Psychic Leap, they might not be able to knock out an Oricorio or a Meloetta with a Hoopa. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's huge. It also helps out against anything that spreads, such as Rapid Strike Urshifu or Jolteon if you run into those. Basically, the second added an Ultra Ball and Choice Belt became better, and it's well equipped into the metagame. Double Turbo Energy is a great way to attach for a single energy. Mew VMAX is cracked. Will it be number 1 next week? Honestly, I feel like it might not be. There's a very good chance that it will be, just because it's just that standard go-to deck. It's not really winning events, but it's consistently making top cut. We'll have to see how it plays out, but I really enjoy playing Mew VMAX right now. It's incredibly skillful to play perfectly, but it has a low skill cap that if anyone's trying to enter into the game, Mew VMAX is easy enough to play that they could walk into some wins. I know it's not what everyone wants to see up here, trust me, but we got to cover the best decks when we have the best decks. It's boring, but it's great. Mew VMAX, number 1. We'll see what's going to be going on until next week. And that's what we got going on for our video today. Let me know, did this list surprise you? Were you expecting any other decks? Where is your favorite deck at? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear back from you. I'm going to be having a great week filled with content. Stay tuned for so much great stuff. Deck profiles, gameplay, PTCG live content, more top 10 decks, covering the late night series. You name it, we got it on this channel. If you stumbled on this channel for the first time, by all means, subscribe to the channel, give this video a like. It does really help boost the YouTube algorithm. If you're trying to pick up any of the cards for this deck on for these decks on PTCGO. Go to ptcgostore.com, plug in code ZLASAGE5 to save 5% on your next order of codes. You can also use those codes on PTCG Live if you want to crack open some packs and build up your collection there. If you're trying to build any of these decks in real life, we're now sponsored by Atlas Collectibles. You can go to atlascollectibles.com, plug in code ZLASAGE8 to save 8% off of physical single cards for Pokemon singles. So check that out there in the description if you want to learn a little bit more how to play the game or grow as a player, whether you're playing the Late Night series, upcoming regionals, whatever. You could always get some coaching from me at medify.gg/@ZachLasage. Love to help you out on your journey. Legitimately, I'd love to help you out on your journey. Hit me up. I can definitely show you how to become a much better player. I gotta go do a bunch of editing and it's super late and these videos always take a bunch of time, so I'll catch up with everyone later. Peace out and have a great one. I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. It means the world to me. And my goal with this channel is to spread my love of the game and knowledge with our entire Pokemon TCG community. If you haven't already, help signal boost this video to other Pokemon TCG fans by liking it, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. Hopefully we reach our goals really soon. Check out this recommended video and have yourself a great day. Thanks.